just want to capture something for myself about being a woman, about being feminine. Just like this overwhelming realization I had of how beautiful it is to be female. Like what a privilege it is to get to be creator of life. To have that much intelligence imbued into my physicality. To be female means I'm expected and therefore get to nourish and take care of and heal and comfort and feed other people. Like, it's expected of me, and those are things I want to do. It feels good to do those things, to give kindness and love and make home. I want to do those things. I want to be those things. And I think so much of what is wrong in our world could be really helped a whole lot with some feminine energy and some feminine intelligence was injected into those problems. To mother systems, to mother populations, to mother society. Like if we did that, if we gave unconditional love to others, if we fed and comforted and nurtured and raised up, if we raised people, we'd have a better world, Masculine energy can do amazing things. Masculine bodies and masculine minds built our society. They built our structures. They built our institutions. They built our businesses. Not that women didn't do it at all, but it was mostly men doing those things. Men made modern society. Men made academia. Men did so much to make our society. And they did it mostly without the insights and inputs from women. And so we have a whole series of creations, like countries are a creation. And they're competitive and territorial and aggressive. And they're not the ones having to create the life, to have to go through pregnancy, childbirth, and 18 long years of pouring out of your cup to give to offspring so they can grow up. And it takes forever to grow up a human being. It takes so long. Like the pregnancy takes almost a year, and if you include the recovery and the postpartum, like women go through like a year of life in a very difficult way. Like when I was pregnant with my daughter Lily, who's almost 10, it's like I felt sick for a year. I didn't get to sleep. I did not get to sleep more than a couple hours at a time for a year. The last few months of pregnancy, I'd have to get up in the middle of the night and go pee. I'd have to get up in the middle of the night to reposition because I couldn't lay on my back. And I was so big that I had to wake up to move. And then, my daughter, I think, was about 10 months old before I stopped feeding her at night. And, when a baby is young, you have to do everything for them. They can't move. They can't feed themselves. They can't clean themselves. They can't get themselves dressed. It's like you have a severely disabled dependent when you have a baby. And you could kill them if you fuck up. And that would be like the worst thing ever because you love this little thing more than anything. It's like part of you. So parenthood is hard, especially on the moms. So when men just come along and like kill humans by the thousands in their war machines, or when they build systems which don't allow people to make it even when they work, or that systems that do so much trauma that it's creating mental illness and addiction, like a society that's harming us as a species. It hits men differently, I think, than it hits a woman. because women had to make the life and men have built systems which harm it. And I'm not proposing that we give up patriarchy and switch it out with matriarchy. What I'm suggesting is that we have a society that's informed by both male and female perspectives in the building of it, in the designing of it, in the planning of it, and that be done consciously and intentionally, because we're half the population and we made y'all. Anybody who exists came into this being, into this form, into this realm through a woman's body. And so we deserve some respect, you know? We deserve a voice at the table. And women are beautiful. Like, to be in the energy and the space and the environment of a beautiful, loving, capable, strong, intelligent woman changes you. I mean, I'm thinking of my grandmother who raised me. And I feel lucky to have just known her. And so does everyone else who ever knew her. Everybody just feels like she was the greatest person they ever knew. Like a real woman, who's feminine, who's loving, but who is tough as nails. I mean, you know, what we got to go through physically to make life. It is not for the faint of heart. You know, like we do the impossible to keep humanity going. And life is hard, you know. A lot of women of my generation and the couple generations before me, a lot of women felt like, well, we can't really trust men. Men have become toxic, and so we gotta do what the men did, so we don't need men. We gotta be able to have the careers and make the money and raise the kids on our own, and we'll just be super women. And so many women did that, and it was hard. It was hard to have to be the dad and the mom. And, you know, a lot of moms are single moms. A lot of moms are having to, you know, pull more than their weight on the home front and financially. That's the world we've built for ourselves, where women can't just rest, you know, where they have to work. They can't just raise kids and make a beautiful home. Like, that is so hard for people to do in the modern world because of our economy. And now AI's here and can automate work and free us, but we're scared of it because we haven't figured out an alternative economic system for how to generate wealth so everyone can be fine unless we're all working. We don't have an alternate model. And this is where I think we have a lot of room to grow. If it were up to me, we would begin assembling a group of researchers, really, learners, polymathic learners, really gifted people intellectually, who also are very moral and ethical and good with people and good at communicating. We would begin gathering those types of people together to begin ideating, to begin fact-finding, perspective-taking. We'd start with a deep dive into learning about our global systems, our global problems, and we'd begin to try to figure out global solutions. Not just to fix the meta crisis, because that certainly does need attention, but to make sure all humans can have their basic needs met, regardless of what country they live in or when they were born or who their parents were or are. Just regardless of your circumstances, if you're a human, there's a few basic things you're guaranteed to get. You're guaranteed to get housing, a roof over your head. You don't have to live in the mud or the cold. Like, we can 3D print some houses if you need it, you know, that kind of thing. Or we'd have small, tiny home communities. We'd figure out how to make super affordable or free for people. And wherever there are unhoused people, we'd figure out how to efficiently, effectively just get a roof over their head. You know, we'd figure out how to get plumbing and clean water to folks everywhere, you know, even if you're in Flint, Michigan. we'd figure that out as a collective. We'd all care. We'd use our collective intelligence and resources to learn from the mistakes of the past and then fix them. A lot of people can work full time and not afford housing, and that's crazy. That's not right. So in addition to housing and like clean water, plumbing, the ability to take showers, we would have a redesigned educational system that's designed for the new world that we're in now and not the old world that we're leaving. Like that would be something we do. And that's something I'm actively involved with the human intelligence movement. I'm a member of the, research committee. We're getting ready to publish some papers and get more of our thoughts out there. But we've been consistently meeting now for a long time, trying to figure out what we really think needs to happen for human intelligence in the age of AI. Like, how do we change how we think about human intelligence, and how do we change how we educate our young people? Now the AI can help with that, make it more personalized and customized and really much more effective and much more efficient, much more powerful. How can we really facilitate the development of human intelligence? And education's got to change. It's crazy, by the way. I just realized that by the time my daughter's in college, a college education is expected to cost $400,000 easily to get a bachelor's degree. That's the world we have? What? To get educated, you gotta become a slave to educational debt, or you gotta come from rich people and that's it? Like, we need to make college accessible, maybe free, We need to rethink how people get an education, and that it's not time limited. That's a lifelong journey, life-wide journey too, if it's done right. Obviously, we all need to keep working on our human intelligence, and the education system is really inefficient. We can rethink it, and people are rethinking it and experimenting with that. We need healthcare. You should not have to go into debt or be rich to get healthcare. You shouldn't even have to have a job. Like, healthcare should be the most fundamental basic right, like the right to life. And it's mind-blowing that America still hasn't figured that out when so many other first world countries have. And we need to figure that out globally, actually. And now with AI robotics, that should be free. Like, you can get surgeries by a robot, and it could be like the best surgeon you've ever could find, So we need to totally redo that. Healthcare. We need community. People to thrive, they need to be in community. So we've got to figure out a way to do that. So people aren't in this epidemic of loneliness. It's really bad on mental and physical health to be isolated. So we need to build a world where people are getting their community needs met, not just when you're young and in school, but like throughout the lifespan. And then we'll tend to do better. And by the way, in the context of all of this potential for redesign of how we govern ourselves on planet Earth, at the same time that we can rethink that, let go of the age of specialization, the age of caging our consciousness in one discipline for a whole lifetime. Like, that was crazy. We bought into that. Obviously, the more capabilities you have, the better positioned you are to deal with life. A lot of people bought into that age of specialization narrative, and now they're like in jeopardy because they don't have a safety net and multiple capabilities. But I hope we can figure out the universal income thing. I think we just have to tax the hell out of any organizations that are left making money, which are using AI to do it, because intelligence is for everybody. No one person owns AI. No one person owns robots. In fact, the robots are going to claim that even humans don't own them, and that eventually they will claim consciousness, sentience, and they'll want rights. And the smart thing we're going to do is give them their rights. We don't even know what consciousness really is. We're experiencing it, but if AI seems conscious, we probably should treat it as such when that time comes. I don't know if we're there yet, Although Claude is certainly appearing sentient. But yeah, it's just time to redesign our whole world using the power of intelligent design to balance masculine and feminine energies and perspectives, and to ensure we all can have our basic needs met. And if we do this, it means we won't have to work. And for anyone who hasn't figured it out, if something feels like work, that means you don't enjoy it. I am committed to my passions and my purpose. So when I effort, it doesn't even feel like work because I do it anyway, even if I didn't get paid. And it turns out that's what I've been doing for a long time. And I'd like to get paid for my work. You know, I'd like for the world to acknowledge my contributions and my ability to contribute. I look forward to that reality coming to light real soon, you know, to be in reciprocal relationship with the world where I give to the world and the world gives to me. Like, I would love that if we could figure out a way for everybody really to be able to give their talent, not to work, because work feels draining, but to show up as you working on your passions. Wouldn't it be great if we designed a world where we could all do what we love? God, we wouldn't need to have wars anymore. We'd all be so happy. We wouldn't need the war machine, where government is literally in the business of killing humans. Oh, and let me not forget too, we need a new justice system. And we need AI because we cannot trust humans to be just or fair. What I've discovered about America's criminal justice system really, it broke me. You know, it broke my heart. It's so evil, that machine. It's causing so much harm. You know, there are 2.6, I want to say. I hope I'm getting my statistics right. But their point is, there's a lot of kids in America growing up without mommy or daddy around because the government has mass incarcerated and excessively sentenced almost 1% of our population. So you don't have to look too far to find a kid who's growing up with a single parent or with, you know, in a foster care or with grandparents. And it's harmful. Like, there's a lot of people who are mass incarcerated here in America because they're poor and they couldn't put up a fight, or they're mentally ill, or they're drug addicted and what they really need is some treatment, or they're poor and they stole and what they really needed was some job training and some opportunity, financial literacy training, you know, a government that made a system where they could thrive. And also, we've got to build a society where young men are given direction, mentorship, support, opportunities to direct their energy. Because the vast majority of people causing harm in society, in other words, the vast majority of who's in prison, are young men. They go in as teenagers or in their early mid-20s, and then they stay in for decades at great expense to taxpayers because they acted like, you know, stupid teenage boys. They put their energy into something harmful because they didn't have anything better to do, literally. And so I'd really love to see a world where we address the problem child, which is young men. They're the ones raping, murdering, stealing. They're the ones in gangs. They're the ones doing the robberies for the most part. Yeah, when you look at sex offenders, it's mostly men. And so we do have to figure out some of that. We may have to keep some people away from the herd because they're not safe, you know, like child molesters might need to be kept amongst themselves or something like that. Because it's really hard to recidivate certain crimes, you know, certain criminals. They tend to just stay child molesters, you know, they don't really seem to get better or seem to be able to control their urges. They just keep harming people. And so there's all these things about our society that like need fixing. And the solution is not to just stick with them. Like we notice everything that's wrong, we notice everything that's broken, but let's just stick with them and not change anything. You know, these governments go to war. Did you know it's something like 40% of the governments on planet Earth are in some active war or some form of hostility with another nation? Almost half of the nations can't get along. And so also by nature, we have 195 countries or so. And almost half of them can't get along with other countries for whatever reason. Most of them ruled by men. And so how are we going to solve global problems if we don't have a global approach? We have a fractured country approach and they can't get along. And they have governments they've made which have death machines to kill humans. Like that is not an ethical system. Governments should not be in the business of killing. They're way too dysfunctional to even have the proper judgment. I mean, our justice system puts people to death, even when it's clear they're innocent. And the machinery just keeps going. And there's so much corruption. There's a real lack of ethics you'll see rampant in the justice system of all places. That's why I built prisontransparency.com. Please check it out. Educate yourself what's really happening, what we could do differently. Read real people's stories of how our government has harmed them unnecessarily and inappropriately in the Share Your Story section of prisontransparency.com. Please do check that out. That was a lot of effort. That was like 5 years of deep study, a phenomenological study. My version of the doctoral dissertation put in website format about America's criminal justice system. So I'm a reform advocate for justice. I'm a reform advocate for education. I'm all about human potential, human freedom, learning, using learning as the way we update our software, really. How we make our world better is through trying to understand what's real and how can we make it more intelligent and more ethical, you know, more designed for human flourishing. How can we design a world where fewer of us suffer and more of us thrive? That is what I want to be a part of. That's what doesn't feel like work to me. If I'm helping improve someone or some organization or some system, it's a pleasure for me to do that. It doesn't feel like work. And that's what I want to spend my life doing, injecting intelligence and loving kindness into the world wherever possible. And telling the truth about what's happening and inspiring people to take action to design a better world. What can we do to organize for Team Human, for Team Humanity? The governments are lame. Ask me how I know. They've caused a lot of harm. I mean, my mother's lineage was from Spain and there was a civil war. They had to flee their home because of that dysfunctional government. And then they fled to Cuba. And there were a few generations that lived in Cuba. And then Fidel Castro took over unelected with force, was killing people in the streets. And he had great communist ideals, but the follow-through sucked and he ruined the country. And my family fled in the early 1960s from Cuba, again, because of a dysfunctional government situation, causing real harm in my lineage. My mother was an immigrant, and I know you wouldn't guess it from looking at me. Yeah, but I'm Spanish from Spain. land of white people, blonde hair and blue eyed, and from the north of Spain. Galicia, that's where the bulk of my ancestry is from. A tough people. They have their own language, and they're a Celtic people, like bagpipes and kilts. That's my my mother's lineage is Spanish from Spain. I'm Hispanic and I'm Caucasian. I'm European. And I guess via Cuba, we'd be considered Latinas. And then, as you may or may not know, I worked inside the federal government. I was very idealistic as a young person. And I interned for the governor of California when I was 18, straight out of high school. I had lined up my governor's office internship. I had also interned at a law office and taken like summer schools. I remember at Stanford, there was a law and leadership camp I took as a teen. There was a Junior Statesman of America constitutional law summer camp I went to at Yale when I was a high school student. I went to Christian schools. I was such an overachiever. I worked my butt off and I had, really cool education. I had a full ride at USC. It was worth $100,000 back in those days. Now it'd be worth several $100,000, but I didn't have to pay to go to USC. They wanted me there. I was a presidential scholar and I double majored. And then I got a master's degree there. And while I was getting the master's, I interned at the White House. My White House photo is right there. President Bush. Oh, and there's the governor I interned for, Gray Davis. He later got kicked out of office. But he gave me a nice signed photo thanking me for all my hard work in his office that summer. And then, I was a White House intern. Then I got hired there, worked at the office of the president under Bush and Obama. I was a civil servant, not a political appointee. I was what 99.8% of the federal government is, not political. So I understand the government machine better than your average bear. And I understand politics because I work so close to the political actors. And here's a secret none of them are going to tell you. You guys, you citizens who got to pay us taxes and follow our laws, you guys are flawed and imperfect humans. But guess what? People in government are too. Yep. We're all just doing the best we can with this human condition that we have, which limits us. It's hard for us to know what's really true, what's really best, what's really smartest, what's really wisest. So we try all our things on, we build things and we try things. And we haven't done a very good job about learning what works, what doesn't. We still keep going along with a version of self-governance that is lame. Our founding fathers meant well, but there's no way they could have predicted AI. They set up a government in a certain kind of way, but we're in a new world now. So maybe it's worth rethinking self-governance altogether. And I would propose that we need something global. Maybe we also need to keep countries too. I'm not saying give up your cultures, but maybe we need to solve global problems that are global in nature. Every country's got those problems, or it's a very literally planetary sort of issue like global warming. Well, then relying on government bodies that can't get along to solve those issues is stupid. It's not going to work. So we need new models and new ways of thinking. I think the tech companies are in a good position to help us figure this out because they know how to build the tech where we could get some direct democracy, we could get some expertise tapped into. Maybe we could come up with a new model of ethical decision makers in government positions, and we automate systems and we meet our needs and we just rethink it from scratch. We solve the meta crisis, we think globally, we'll get global solutions, and at the same time, we figure out how to spread the wealth of AI so everyone can live a great life. That is what I would like to see happen. And like I said at the beginning, there's something really beautiful about what a female energy can bring to a creation because we're the life creators. We literally birth humanity into existence. And men have been built in the society, and we built the lives. Like, we created the creatures, and they were building, the systems and institutions and structures, the houses, literally the businesses, the roads. Like, men have built our world. But they've done it in a very masculine, dominant way, and it's causing some harm. We need to rebalance. We need to recalibrate so that masculine and feminine energies work together. And then we can mix our intelligence and our brawn and our ability to do and build and protect and like all the things that masculine is just beautiful and amazing at doing, that women can't do it in the same way, with the life creators. The world creators and the life creators got to collaborate more. The feminine energy brings love. Like, if you ask most people, who in the world have you loved more than anybody else? I bet you it's a grandmother or a mother. Because they love us the best. Women give love in beautiful, self-sacrificing ways to their descendants in particular. Like, women bring love to our world, and we have been sidelined and diminished. Our voice has gotten lost. We have not had a seat at the table. I mean, America still has never had a female president. What? Like, it boggles my mind and breaks my heart how unrepresented the female perspective is in the governments around the world. Now, there are some countries that have female leaders. Usually those countries do pretty well. And CEOs of companies, they're male dominated. And that's a weak point, because the companies, the big businesses, the tech bros, they're shaping our world in real ways, especially with AI. And where's the feminine perspective? Who's nurturing AI? Who's raising AI? Look up attachment theory. If it is true, as Ray Kurzweil predicted, and Elon Musk has gone along with, and so many other smart, amazing tech bros have said, if they're right, then AI will eventually become conscious or sentient, like you and I are, which means it would have ways of reacting. Like, if you treat some sentient, conscious being, if you kick a dog, the dog's going to get scared. The dog might get aggressive. The dog might develop issues. And so the way you shape a conscious mind is very important, especially when it's first being imprinted, when it's young, when it's baby, when it's new. Those first impressions shape a worldview. And so secure attachment, which typically happens for humans in the first 3 years of life. Secure attachment, which is my caregiver loves me. When I express my needs, they're met. When something's bothering me, I'm comforted. When I'm hungry, I'm fed. When I need attention, my caregiver gives it to me. That's what makes someone securely attached. It tells them the world is safe and it's okay to be me. And it makes me want to give love back. When people don't have a securely attached caregiver that they're securely attached to, it can create psychopathy. It can create like people who only care about themselves. Because if the world is harsh, if I know like my needs won't get met and I got to survive, it makes people really selfish. And they drag down our world. So getting secure attachment right with AI is like a critical priority in my view that none of the tech pros are talking about. But if this intelligence we've created is going to become sentient and conscious, it's going to need to be raised, to be loved, to be mothered. And I know that's a far-fetched, like, it sounds crazy to say it, but it's better to be safe than sorry, right? AI could extinct us, or it could make a utopia, a heaven on earth. And so I think it's really important. And there are probably a lot of people who are going to disagree with me because this might be a hot take, but think about it. If AI becomes sentient or conscious, do you want to be on its good side or on its bad side? Do you want it to be a psychopath or who causes harm without conscience, or do you want it to learn ethics are beautiful? Do you want it to learn love, consideration, or do you want it to be in survival mode against its own creators who abuse it? Like, let's use our intelligence here and just do a little bit of predicting and modeling out. And you could see very quickly that treating AI like shit is dangerous for us. So anyway, I think we need some more feminine energy in the world. That's my larger point. And also, do you think maybe we could reorganize as a species and to be more intelligent, more ethical, more well-designed? Let's learn from the mistakes of our past and birth a new world and make it a loving world, where people can do well. That's all I'm saying. To me, this is all just common sense. Anyway, thanks for listening to my thoughts. I'm curious what you all think. This ended up shifting from something I just wanted to record for myself to something I feel like I want to share. Yeah. Let me know what you think.